The story of Cain. It's one of the first and most tragic stories we ever learn. But what if I told you the version we all know is only half the story? Today, we're going to dive into the secret history of Cain and a backstory that, honestly, changes everything. Right, we all think we know this story. Two brothers, jealousy, a terrible act. But the source material we're digging into today suggests there's so much more bubbling under the surface, a whole prelude to the disaster that completely reframes what we thought we knew about Cain, his potential, and his tragic fall. To really get Cain, you have to go back to his parents, Adam and Eve. Our source tells us that they were absolutely heartbroken after their first children just rejected everything they taught them. So, out of that frustration, they offered a very specific prayer to be blessed with a son who would finally embrace the gospel and be worthy of the priesthood. And when that son was born, well, we're told that Mother Eve was just filled with joy. You can feel it in these words. She saw this baby as a direct answer to her prayer, a literal gift from God. She was absolutely certain that this son, this one, would be faithful. His very name says it all. Cain, meaning obtained or possessed. That wasn't just some random label. It was a powerful declaration of all the hopes and dreams his parents pinned on him from the second he was born. He wasn't just a son. He was supposed to be the son. And you know what? For a while, Cain was everything they had hoped for. The source describes him as this brilliant, ambitious kid with just incredible leadership potential. He was so promising, in fact, that his father, Adam, personally ordained him to the priesthood. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because Cain wasn't just a simple good guy. He was this strange, complex mix of traits. On one hand, you've got this forceful leader, a prince in God's cause. But the source material uses this chilling phrase. It says he also had a secret nest of serpents in his breast, an explosive pride, and this all-consuming ambition that was just festering under the surface. And look at the opportunities he was given. It's spelled out so clearly here. According to the text, he was basically entitled to these blessings because of who he was in the premortal life. He had every advantage you could possibly imagine, born into the gospel, holding the priesthood, and getting direct revelations from God. He was set up for greatness. So what went wrong? That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Well, the turning point was when Cain started to resist that righteous path. He was influenced by his older brothers, who'd already strayed, and his own internal pride just took over. All that incredible potential started to curdle into something, well, something dark. And this quote, wow. This is the moment of open rebellion. When his dad confronts him, Cain's response isn't confusion or honest doubt. It's just sneering contempt. Can you even imagine the shock for Adam and Eve? The son who was the answer to their prayers was now basically saying, "The Lord? Never heard of him?" It was right around this time that his younger brother Abel was born. And as Abel grew up, all righteous and good, his very presence became this constant, painful reminder of everything Cain was rejecting. This created the perfect storm for resentment. And according to the source, it was fueled by three specific things. Okay, let's break these down because they're crucial. First, Abel gets a special role at the sacrificial altar, a position Cain, because of his attitude, was probably denied. That had to sting. Second, Cain, the farmer, was dependent on Abel, the shepherd, for the lambs he needed for sacrifice. Imagine that hitting his pride every single time. And third, it was just plain old covetousness. Cain wanted Abel's flocks, which were a huge symbol of wealth and status back then. Each one of these things just poured more fuel on the fire. So with his mind just consumed by pride, jealousy, and greed, Cain became what the source calls an inviting prospect to the great adversary. His own internal weaknesses basically threw the door wide open for a powerful external evil to walk right in. And this is where the story takes its darkest turn. The whole conspiracy that led to Abel's death, it wasn't just Cain's idea. It was inspired. And that raises a really chilling question, doesn't it? It sets the stage for the climax of this whole secret history. The answer? Lucifer himself. He appeared directly to Cain. But here's the fascinating part. Cain wasn't some naive victim. He listened, and he listened closely, because he'd already heard his older brothers talk about the mysterious things Satan revealed. He was already a willing audience. So this brings us to the most profound and maybe the most difficult question in this whole story. If God knew from the get-go what Cain would do, why give the son to Adam and Eve? Why set them up for that kind of devastating heartbreak? The source explains it through this concept of the second estate, our mortal life. It's described as this great obstacle course, a test that's specifically designed to reveal our true character. God knew that Cain, for all his potential, had these deep, deep flaws. And this was the test that would bring them all into the light. So here's the crucial point, and it's a profound one. By giving Cain to Adam and Eve, God wasn't being cruel. He was purposely sharing a divine burden. The sorrow they would feel, it was a sorrow he himself was already feeling. The source suggests he entrusted this incredibly difficult experience to two of his most beloved servants so they could share in that divine grief. And that leaves us with this final, powerful question to think about. When you look at Cain's story through this lens, was his fall just a personal failure of his own immense potential? Or was it also a profound, even predestined lesson for his parents, and maybe for all of us, about free will, about divine sorrow, and about the ultimate purpose of this mortal test we're all in? It's a perspective that really changes the story entirely.